All right, Tigers, we have our gray glove. We have our fleece Columbia zip-up jacket. We have our gray pullover hoodie, our NBA zip-up black and white jacket, our red polo, and a turquoise zip-up hoodie, very soft. We have a jasmine princess lunchbox, 3 water bottles, frisbee, eyeglass case, butterfly mask, some hair decorations and headbands. If any of this looks familiar, let our front office know.
Hi Tigers, we're going to be talking today about perspective and peace. Cultivating and building happiness in our lives has so many benefits emotionally, socially, physically. We relate to other people around us better, we treat ourselves well, and we're just more likely to adopt healthy habits and avoid destructive and poor behaviors and choices. And studies have shown that our ability to learn is connected with a positive or happy emotional experience, and that causes the information that we receive to be stored in our long-term memories when we are happier. So what is perspective taking? Perspective taking allows us to consider more than one way of understanding a behavior, an event, or a situation. Why should we use perspective taking? If we're able to accept that other classmates and people around us may behave or think differently than we do, we are so much better equipped and able to tolerate and put up with and find ways to get along with those people around us when they do act differently than we do. It gives us help in the ability to talk out a problem and find a solution that we can all agree upon. It just takes practice to develop that skill, like anything else takes practice. We need to learn to think with an open mind, to pause and consider what other people might be seeing and thinking.
When we talk about perspective taking, we're referring to the process through which one is able to see a situation from the viewpoint of another, understanding their feelings, intentions, thoughts, or view of a particular situation. It doesn't mean we have to agree with their point of view. However, there is understanding and empathy. One of the things that is clear is that we all have our own perspective, or way of seeing the world. For example, consider this image. What do you see? Did some of you see a rabbit? Did some of you see a duck? Why do you think that is? This exercise demonstrates that even when presented with the same scenario, or in this case, image, we may see things differently. From one person's perspective, it may be a rabbit, and for another, a duck. Some may see something entirely different. It all depends on your perspective. Many aspects of life influence our perspective, such as our experiences, values, personality traits, information available, personal biases, and more. One's viewpoint can also change depending on your physical position or in the role you play. For example, not everyone on a football field has the same view. Your perspective can vary drastically depending on your place on the field and position, such as quarterback, O-lineman, or free safety. Sometimes, to understand others and to see from others' perspectives, we must reposition ourselves, both physically and mentally. When we acknowledge that there are many ways to see the world, we quickly see why perspective taking is valuable. Here are a few things to keep in mind. Perspective taking allows you to consider the experiences and viewpoints of others. By doing so, you improve your ability to understand, empathize, connect, and communicate. Finally, when you practice perspective taking, you can be a more effective advocate for others and the issues you care about the most.
Mentally standing in someone else's shoes means we have to use reflection and think back to different emotions and thoughts that we might have had before, so we can think about what they might be thinking right now. And when we do that, we're stopping and we're thinking. We're not doing something without thinking first. When we repeatedly view issues from other people's point of view, that builds neural networks that enable us to reason before we take action. Paying attention to a situation in a calm, mindful, focused manner is a physiological workout for your brain, actually stimulating blood flow to your brain. Calm perspective taking directs incoming information onto the reflective thinking prefrontal cortex instead of that reflexive reactive amygdala. As we learn and get better at considering alternate points of view, we can do a better job of calming our own anxieties. We can exercise self-control. We can gauge our own behaviors and our own reactions in response to others. When difference of opinion is honored and disagreement is respectful, we can all feel safer in our environment, in our classrooms. This unstressed state of mind allows our amygdala, our barking dog, to stand down and puts the prefrontal cortex in control. So if you have a piece of paper handy, go ahead and grab that. We're going to try a little activity together. We're going to try to understand how pathways between our nerve cells are built through repeated practice. So when we practice understanding someone else's emotions over and over again, we build that neural pathway. It becomes a well-traveled path. So take your piece of paper. We're going to hamburger fold it and fold it in half. And if you don't get it perfect, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I'm going to go ahead and half it again. If it's not exactly in half, that's okay. So now we'll have fourths. Now we're going to unfold it so it's a flat sheet again. Let's refold it. Which time was faster? The second time, because we already had those folds to guide us. And that's how it works in our brain as well. We build those neural pathways every time we repeat or practice something over and over again. We are building those pathways to make it easier to do the next time. And the same is true for practicing perspective taking. Let's talk about perspectives in some stories that we're all pretty familiar with. Think about the three little pigs. So the three little pigs, you know how the story goes. They each go out and build their own version of a house with sticks, straw, bricks, and then the wolf comes along and tries to blow it down to eat them, and they have to run until they get to the house they're safest in the bricks. But what about the wolf's point of view? The true story of the three little pigs. Raise your hand if you've heard that story before. Takes a completely different view, doesn't it, when we hear his side of the story? Raise your hand if you've ever heard of the story of Sleeping Beauty, who is usually considered the villain in that story. Maleficent, right? So we have Maleficent in that story. Raise your hand if you've seen the movie Maleficent yet. Okay, well the movie shows Maleficent's feelings too. Have you thought about that? That the villains in the story might have feelings too? Everyone has feelings. So part of learning to understand other people's perspectives is understanding feelings. Let's start by talking about happiness. Everybody show me your happy face. Usually that comes with a smile, doesn't it? Bright eyes and a smile. You can even tell if someone's happy when they're wearing a mask, if you're really looking at their eyes. Okay, now I want you to fill in the blank. I am happy when. Ooh, think about that. What is something that makes you happy? Everybody had different ideas, didn't they? Different things make different people happy. Each of us is different. We have different memories. We have different experiences. Raise your hand if you've ever been scared by a spider. Raise your hand if spiders really don't scare you very much. We're different. Some things that might scare you don't scare other people. Some things that scare other people won't scare you. But that doesn't mean they're not scared. Different things make different people angry. Sometimes we can all understand why someone would be angry, right? A lot of times they are the same. But some things that might frustrate me might not frustrate my neighbor. If someone's tapping their pencil and that's frustrating to me, maybe it doesn't bother my neighbor, but it bothers me. Different things bother different people. So you have to remember, stop and think, looking at a person, reading their eyes, reading their facial expression. What feeling do you think they're having? Would you want someone to listen to you if you were upset? Yes, you would. Which means we need to stop and listen to other people when they're upset. And we don't have to agree the entire time. We don't. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't. Our best friends don't have to agree with us all the time. They don't. That's okay. We can have different thoughts. We can have different feelings. We just need to respect each other, which means taking time to stop and listen to each other. Sometimes we can work out problems together and we can come to an agreement, or at least a situation where we can agree to disagree, or work out a plan on how we're going to get along even though we disagree. Sometimes that might mean walking away. Getting that poster of choices in your room on how to work out small problems can help with that. But you have to be willing to stop and listen and understand that not everyone thinks the exact same way that you do. And that's okay. All right, everyone get their piece of paper back out, the one we folded earlier. Grab a pencil. I'm going to hold up a block and I want you to write down the feeling you see or try to draw what the block looks like from your perspective, and I'm going to draw it from mine. So you draw it from your perspective, what you're seeing, and I'm going to draw it from my perspective and what I'm seeing. Does not have to be perfect. If you don't want to draw, you can just write what feeling word you think would represent what you're seeing. All right. So I'm going to assume you drew a young girl smiling, or maybe wrote the word happy on your paper. I did not. My perspective looked very different than yours. This was what I saw on my side. A very sad young boy. Your perspective was very different from my perspective. So before you assume that everybody sees the exact same thing you see or feels the exact same way you feel, make sure you check first. Check their perspective. How can you find out? You can look at their face. You can listen to them. You can ask them questions. You can talk to them. When we take time to mindfully consider someone else's feelings, someone else's perspective, we are less likely to make quick judgments about what we think they're feeling or why they made choices in their behaviors. And often our quick judgments are unfair. So we need to stop and think and talk to them about what's going on so we can find a way to work out our problems and have peace. If you're ever having a rough moment, you can close your eyes and take a mindful moment and imagine that you hear, smell, see, and sometimes taste the ocean. I hope that brings you some peace.
I pledge to give my best, respect others, encourage safety, always be prepared, and take responsibility for my actions. Because at Taylorsville, we're great!
I know that I said some things I shouldn't have. I know that it left you down and feeling sad. And all the things things I did, I cannot take them back. But I know that this is not the answer, 'cause staying mad is not the way. We've got to find a better place. So let's work it out and be okay. 'Cause I know that peace is what we need. It's time to give up the fight we're fighting. It doesn't matter who's right or who wins. Peace is the answer you're trying to find. So give up the fight. I know that you wanna say what's on your mind, and I know that you feel like you weren't treated right. But I'm telling you, it's good to leave the past behind. Then you'll find that peace is just the answer. 'Cause staying mad is not the way. We've gotta find a better place. So let's work it out and be okay. Because I know that peace is what we need. It's time to give up the fight we're fighting. It doesn't matter who's right or who wins. Peace is the answer you're trying to find. So give up the fight. Peace is the right thing. Give up the fight, sing. Peace is the right thing. Give up the fight, sing. Peace is the right thing. Give up the fight, sing. We're fighting, it doesn't matter who's right or who wins. Peace is the answer you're trying to find. So give up the fight. It's time to give up the fight we're fighting. It doesn't matter who's right or who wins. Peace is the answer you're trying to find. So give up the fight. Yeah, give up the fight.